Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the SoFi Weekly. Today, as always, I am with the great and powerful Roy from Crossroads Investing, a very powerful investor that was actually just featured on the Robinhood Q4 earnings call, a true retail analyst. Tevis, the great and powerful Robinhood shareholder, newly. He actually just sold more of his SoFi shares. This is why the company is up today, which is very good news, and why potentially Robinhood is potentially going to go down. So, think about that pair trade: short Robinhood, long SoFi, because that is the opposite of what Tesla or Tevis is doing. I'm going to start calling you Tesla. Actually, that's maybe a more suited name.
I don't think Tesla would mind that. So.
I did not sell SoFi, and I bought a very, very tiny Robinhood position. But we'll see where they go.
Wait, then why did SoFi go up so much today? I mean, you must know, actually.
To save my cash secured puts, I don't know. I had 1550s and lost saved by the bell on those.
We will actually potentially talk about why SoFi ran up. I think it actually might have to do a little bit with a little company called Wyndham Hotels.
Yeah, maybe. SoFi really likes Wyndham.
Yeah.
Wyndham Clark, Wyndham Mortgages, Wyndham Hotels.
Yeah.
If there's anything else Wyndham there, they're going to buy it or partner with it.
Yeah. Roy, how you doing?
Good. Been a busy week, but good week.
Yeah. What did you get into this week that I haven't been caught up on, or at least the audience has not been caught up on?
Did a live at PayPal Monthly, and we went over the SEC filing. I had a terrible post in X. The formatting got all messed up, but there were some interesting nuggets, and so that was a fun thing to work on. Sold some HIMs, took some gains there. They're just the calls were so deeply underwater, and it's run up so much. I'm like, hey, I would feel okay doing that, and I'll probably be buying more PayPal. Actually, well, we'll talk about the fireside chat, I'm sure, but that was such a good chat that if it wasn't for my 10% rule, I probably would have bought more SoFi.
Yeah. Big Tevis, what's going on, big guy? Why are you taking positions in other fintechs and betraying your favorite SoFi?
I mean, it's not like I know the community sometimes makes it seem, and certain creators make it seem, that if you like one, you must hate the others. And I don't think that's the case.
What's that certain creator?
I'm not going to name names. I'm just saying there's...
I will. Data-driven investing. All right. So
no, it's probably not Chris.
Chris hates Robinhood, and I know that he will hate me for saying that, and he will valiantly defend himself tomorrow on X. But this dude hates this company.
Honestly, it seems like it. I think he kind of doesn't like Palantir maybe a little bit, not the company, but the stock. But yeah, Robinhood, I don't think he likes it.
I will take having Chris on our side, and I'm going to use that very liberally, because there's plenty of content creators out there that seem from their posts that they're long Robinhood, short SoFi, and they might in fact be long both, but the posts are very, how can I say this? Optimized for engagement. Let's put it that way.
You calling out Tanner, aren't you? No, I'm just kidding.
What's it called? I definitely do like both. I think, honestly, I was talking about it this week. I think one will be the Charles Schwab of the future, and one will be the Bank of America of the future. And both of those can exist in parallel and service very different needs.
Sure.
Do we want to jump right into this Wyndham Clark news?
Wyndham Clark.
Let's talk about the...
Is that what I said?
Yeah, I mean, it's all the Wyndhams, man. I'm telling you. They freaking love Wyndhams.
I meant Wyndham Mortgage news. Wyndham Hotel news.
The third try got it.
Yeah. Do we want to jump into that, or is there something else smaller that we want to potentially talk about?
Maybe that. Let me pull that up for where Anthony Noto actually replied. I thought that was good. Last week we saw him replying and saying, "Yeah, we're listening, we're paying attention." And then there was a discussion really related to SoFi price action, which is kind of funny.
Bro, I've been humming that song in my head literally all day long now. Like it's stuck in there.
What song?
Let It Be.
Oh, yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah,
I can actually play that on the ukulele too. So
that's I'm pretty sure that's why he phrased it that way. Anthony Noto did.
maybe. So yeah, screenshot SoFi. That was basically the top.
1 cent off from the top, I think.
Yeah, DDI is like, hey, it was him that took it down, and then you guys are killing me. Just let it be, and it will be. So I just thought it was funny. We've asked for a little bit more engagement. We didn't, not necessarily that kind, but that's fun. It's just a little fun thing. But I mean, like a lot of the not every executive of every company is like paying attention to X and different things, but there's a lot, and it will surprise you guys like how many times they'll see something and they just won't comment because working on other things. So yeah, they see.
Yeah. I enjoy the fact that he's engaging more. I think that what a lot of people have been asking for him for this, and him having a little bit more fun with retail is obviously a great experience, and it's not going to slow down his role. And if he can ask some more or answer some more retail questions, even if it's on X or something like this, I think that would add a lot more calmness to the very fragile retail base in the stock that $1 one way or $1 the other can say whether you're going all in or selling everything.
Honestly, though, that's most of the reason why there's bearish sentiment. It's not about the company. It's not about, and that was like the basis of that conversation. And there's a separate conversation as well that I had with Brad Freeman. Is most people are bearish just because of the stock price, not because of anything else. Because they posted up very good quarter. We already dissected the earnings call and everything, and it's not perfect. There are issues, but I mean, the reality is, if the stock is pumping and the company was terrible, people would be like, "This company is the best ever." But if it's the opposite, it's the opposite.
Yeah. Going to this breaking news here, going back to data-driven investing, because I think he broke this down pretty well. Wyndham Hotels, which he actually had this great image here. Actually, let me see if I can bring that up just a little bit bigger. 1 second. Just goes to show you some of the largest hotel chains in the world. And you can see that in second place, Wyndham Hotel and Resorts actually lands them in second at 9,280 different hotels. The second largest worldwide. They actually have 114 million people on their rewards program, which does currently have a credit card to my understanding. However, not everyone has the ability to use a credit card. Maybe they, potentially have a credit issue or don't want that type of product. So they're also trying to expand with a debit card and entering into a $4.5 trillion market. Is this an innovative product as the Wyndham Hotel user base makes it want to seem, Tevis? Or, is this just another partner in the 100+ partners that the Galileo works with?
Look, I think it's interesting because it's not in the fintech space. I think it's also interesting because it's a massive player. They have over 6,000 locations in the US. So it's a large account. And I also think it's interesting because in their notable deals, this was not the one where they said this is a top 10 account for us. They didn't actually say anything about the size of this account relative. So you can imagine that the accounts that they haven't named, they're actually significantly larger than this, at least by association. That's where my mind goes. But one thing that I mentioned in my weekly recap earlier today was I like the fact that now that we're in the non-banking clientele and non-fintech clientele, they are seemingly more lax on a regulatory perspective or even on an NDA perspective, where SoFi didn't name drop. Wyndham actually name dropped SoFi.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool because we can get more information through the actual partners themselves because they're proud to have a partnership of that nature. I really want to see more deals coming outside the fintech and traditional banking spaces because I want to be able to advocate for a larger total addressable market for Galileo to do more deals of this type. And this is a pretty unique deal. I mean, it's like the only one. I think the Wyndham CEO was saying it's like the only one in the hospitality space in the US of this nature. And so it's obviously a case study within that vertical for not only Marriott and others, but also other businesses in entirely new verticals outside fintech.
Yeah.
So in that isolation, like the Wyndham deal is big because Wyndham is big as a company. And so that's the first layer. But the second layer is it's big for what it represents for others in that space to acclimate to Galileo.
Now, what do you think about the actual size of the debit card industry, Roy? There are some people going back and forth on this. Some people are saying, hey, debit cards are not actually that useful. They don't offer, fraud protection. It's your money that you're using, not the bank's money. So they're not going to be as willing to help out in some of these situations. But on the other hand, some people are also saying with some of the motions that Trump has been talking about bringing credit card interest rates down to 10%, a lot of people actually trying to cut the interchange revenues for credit cards. Could debit cards really be the potential, hidden growth target here?
No. Debit cards, I mean, they're okay. I've got a debit card. It's a SoFi debit card actually that I carry.
Oh, okay.
the only non-credit card other than driver's license, in my wallet. But it's a good partnership. Like Teva said, it's awesome. The size of this, others will look at this and be like, "Hey, we want a piece of that." If it works well, I think it'll lead to future deals. Great partner. Massive revenue driver, probably not. Debit cards. I don't think that that's a massive growth driver, but what I do, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, is the interest only loans. Like that, I think it absolutely has tremendous growth potential for SoFi. That from that fireside chat was probably the most exciting thing for me. But yeah, debit cards is like, yeah, it's kind of like SoFi's current credit card offerings. Is like they're there, they'll get a little bit from it. It can lead to future things, which is good, but it's not like, wow, this really changes the bull case. And I actually kind of disagree with you on the stock price action today. It's like it may have just been a delayed reaction to the fireside. Like that interest only loan thing just kind of took me by surprise of like, wait, what is this? What is he talking about? How is this different than credit cards? What's the actual market for this? And as I spent time thinking about it, and Tevis, I appreciate your recap. It was phenomenal. If you guys missed the fireside chat, both these guys covered it live. If you have time, watch that. But if not, Tevis has a tremendous recap. I'm sure Tanner does too. And I apologize, Tanner. I hadn't seen yours too. But
No, I don't have one.
It's great. And he just like streamlines it. So you have clip after clip. I was busy that day, so I could not catch it live. So thank you, Tevis. But yeah, debit cards are all right. But that could be something special.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just think I think delayed reactions to things. I don't know if those happen as often as people think. Like, who are the large buyers here? You think that Wall Street is slow on watching those fireside chats?
Well, so most of Anthony Noto's fireside chats, Crystal Point a little bit different, but are usually just recaps and reiterations of things he's already said. There's usually not any new information. Sometimes there's some clarification, and that's useful. It's not bad, but I would imagine the analysts in the street have lower priority threshold when it's like, okay, I'll watch this and catch up with this, or I'll read the transcript. but they're doing other things, and so maybe it's a couple of day thing. For myself, like I didn't catch it live. I didn't even catch it the day after. I caught it, what was it, Thursday? Today's Friday. Yeah. So
Yeah. Tevis?
but yeah, I think the better culprit though of the price action, Tevis must have sold some SoFi. Yeah, that's the only explanation. So
Tevis, do you think that this is Wyndham Hotels or just people sort of swallowing what this potential interest-only personal loan product could be?
I mean, I think a little bit of everything. Like SoFi didn't move at all in the actual fireside day. There is such a thing as a delayed reaction. Um, we've seen it before with SoFi. We've seen it with multiple different names. The market sometimes needs days to digest certain things. I mean, what did we see it with? We saw it with GameStop like yesterday, dude. Ryan Cohen took a picture with Michael Saylor and nothing happened. And then GameStop was looking into Bitcoin and the stock jumped like 13%. And you're like, guys, the puzzle pieces are all there, but it's just a delayed reaction from the market. And so it happens all the time. I don't think you always need to directly attribute a move to something. Hims moved 30% this week on absolutely no news at all. You know what I'm saying? Like we can assume there was a lot of short covering. We can assume a lot of things, but 30% Hims moved again, today and every single day for the last 3 weeks on absolutely no news at all.
I'm not a shareholder of the company, but I thought the news was.
Yes, you are.
Okay, well, I am.
Yes,
I
you
am. But you are right. I own 4 shares of Hims. But that being said, I thought the news was that the what do you call it? Website traffic that they were getting was much higher than Wall Street anticipated. They said they saw like a 650% bump.
That came out after. I thought you were going to say the RFK nomination. Like, yeah, sure. There's, smaller news that affects the space as a whole. There was news around like, potentially one of the senators was saying potentially the tariffs are going to exclude healthcare, and like Hims was positive. But my point is like none of those in isolation account for a 30% increase in the stock price in a single day. So I don't want to fall into a rabbit hole with Hims. I just want to illustrate the point that not all stocks need to have a directly attributable reason as to why they're rising. Sometimes they rise and fall because of whatever reason, right? But I do think with regards to the actual fireside chat, bringing it back to that, the value proposition is really interesting. And from what I've gotten reading between the lines on management's commentary over the past 2 times we've heard from them in the Q4 earnings call and also in the fireside chat, is that they're really studying different ways that they can make this business model more viable to expand that CAGR over time for the foreseeable future, to the point where they're not saying like, hey, we see 30% CAGR until 2026. They're saying for this foreseeable future. And I think the secret of that lies in this low capital intensive, low risk, high ROE line item that leverages their marketing efforts, that leverages their expertise to originate on behalf of other people, to cannibalize these other business lines, and to focus only on what is the highest ROI potential lines that they can double down on, right? Like, why would I do my own originations for personal lending when I can win X, when I can do loan platform business deals when they give me a credit box and I don't really have to take on that much risk? I don't have to hold these loans on my balance sheet. I don't have to do anything like that. And I can win 2X. Or, and it's just, it is such a no-brainer when you think of it from that perspective. And I got that same feeling when I heard about this deal. I was thinking about it and I was saying, wow, if everybody refinanced with SoFi and paid half of what they pay for their credit card interest, but they only pay the interest for the first 5 years or 10 years, well, all of a sudden, SoFi on paper doesn't win anything because they're only paying the interest, but they get this person in their ecosystem for basically free for that entire period of time. That person is going to buy, they're going to open a brokerage account, maybe to put some of those savings. They're going to have Cash Coach that recommends what they should do. If they want to pay off more of their principal and not change their monthly spend, they can absolutely do that. So there's so many different alternatives that they can do. You guys both turn off your camera because there's something in the comments that I'm not going to read. My point being is that they're thinking holistically about the business, And SoFi Plus, I think, is going to be the connective tissue across all of those business lines, because SoFi Plus is going to be that moat or that platform whereupon all of these products are built atop of. And the cross-selling flywheel is going to accelerate as a result of that. Because you can imagine I have 25% that I'm paying in the form of credit card debt. And then I go to refinance with SoFi because I can't manage the monthly payments. And I reduce my monthly payment by half. And then I'm like, oh, well, let me just check my credit score, see what this is doing for my credit score. Let me use Relay. Oh, well, I have some extra money. Let me, go into open a brokerage account. Oh, well, this SoFi Plus benefit offers me the highest APY and offers me one-on-one financial planning. Let me try that out. And all of a sudden, you have all of this accelerated flywheel effect on the back of a product line that in itself is, I won't go so far as to say it's a loss leader, but it's not like a huge lucrative thing on itself, because all they're doing is paying back the interest for the first 5 or 10 years. And so the reward is not necessarily SoFi, the money that they're going to get after they start paying the principal after 10 years. It's the fact that they have them in their ecosystem for 10 years to begin with.
Yeah, and also you can sell those loans off before we even, need them. So they'll never be loss leaders, in my opinion. They'll always just sell them off. But what's also very interesting about the product, moreover than the other loan platform businesses, what you highlighted is the fact that there's other products that they can get into. Upstart is doing a very good job. There's a bunch of these companies that want to have similar loan platform businesses, but they don't have anything to cross-sell these people. So Upstart, they go, oh, well, we have really good cross-selling to other loans. Well, so will SoFi, plus, banking products and Relay and other things that they can get into, or travel services, or so that's the sort of flywheel effect that really they can double down on, where, in my opinion, I think that SoFi's customer acquisition costs are going to skyrocket over the next little bit. And the reason is that they can now afford to pay a really high customer acquisition cost to not just get people through on a checking side, but directly to hot leads on loans. And the reason why they'll do that is because they want that loan over the big banks and the other fintechs. And then once they're there, they're going to capture them in fintech. And the reason why they'll need to do that and not go through the lower customer acquisition costs is because the demand from institutional asset managers and insurance companies and everyone else that wants this loan platform business is going to demand so much origination volume. There's only so many Blue Owl deals that you can accept at 5 billion plus over a 24-month period before you need more members onto the platform. So I think that customer acquisition is going to go through the roof, and everyone is going to celebrate that happening, because that's how many loans are going to end up signing.
So one of the things that I love about that product, though, is it really hits where I think there's going to be a lot of demand for that product. So this is going back. This is total debt balance of the U.S. consumer, and you can see a lot of it's just housing. SoFi has a product for housing. Non-housing, they break it out here. Student loans, SoFi has a product for that. Credit cards, the solution wasn't like having cheaper credit cards or cheaper rates or anything like that, but SoFi has a very credible product for that. And credit card debt, the amount of it will go up over time. It's not hit a crisis point yet, but for some people, like, they're in crisis mode, just like with student loans. And like SoFi has a real opportunity with both of those products. And I see that continuing. I see like little signs here and there of consumer stress. It's not at the breaking point. I don't predict a recession or anything like that. We're not near that yet, in my estimation. But it's nice when a product launch fills a vacuum where there's just not much. Maybe there's other banks that do this. This is the first time I've heard about something like this. And also is an area where there's going to be tremendous near-term demand. And so I think that SoFi is going to do very, very well over time on that. You can see here, like, the percentage of 90% days delinquent. Credit cards are not, they're not doing well. So there's some stress there for sure. So the biggest question mark in my mind is when they are launching this. What do you think, Tanner? Is this like a this here product, or is this?
I mean, you know what's funny about SoFi is it always feels like they launch products a little bit slower, but it doesn't seem that way on the credit side. On the credit sides, it always feels like the personal loan products, like they went from 7 days funding down to 4, down to 3, 2, 1 same day in a very fast period of time. So I think that the lending innovations will come fast. Probably a second half of 2025 product.
I also think it's going to be a 2025 product, because otherwise, why would he start mentioning this product in particular? Like, I think that with this product being somewhat game changing in that space, I would not want to show my cards unless it was close to the finish line. Because if I'm like, hey, this is something that's going to revolutionize the credit card market. Oh, by the way, we're going to launch it in 2 to 3 years. You just gave away your playbook to every other listener in the world. And so I think that it's something that is 2025 slated, at least just logically speaking, right?
I don't think it's that much of a revolutionary product for them. Well, I mean, for SoFi it is, but not for the market. Interest-only lending products exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've not heard of them before, so they may be a niche, and it may be something. I'm guessing that there's a lot of consumers out there, and that's a really cool thing about SoFi. But there's a lot of consumers undoubtedly out there that have no idea this exists. And just going back to that credit card chart, as that continues to climb higher and higher, there's no student loan relief. Like it's not great, and I wish that wasn't the case for anybody. Like, debt is terrible. We had a season in our life where everything went wrong at once right after we bought a house. We went in debt for like a year and a half. So it was terrible. I hated it. Some people live with that, and it's just a constant stress. It's bad for your health. It's bad for your relationships. It impacts every single thing. And having a way out, basically a lifeline, even if it's not ideal, it's like, oh, I'm financing this out longer with their student loan product or something like that, or I'm just paying off the interest. That can give people the lifeline that they need. It fits the wheelhouse of SoFi really nicely, and then they have they're growing a massive reach. That's one of the points of the branding that they're doing is more and more people know what SoFi does. They're able to market their own products very well, and I think that when it comes time to this can be a much bigger deal than it seems like perhaps to you on the surface.
Yeah, I think the other thing to mention is that it fits so well within their mission statement and their value proposition, where they're like, hey, don't get screwed on credit card interest, pay half with us. And you can understand from an investor sentiment point of view, you can understand how this is beneficial for the business and how this will play into the flywheel. But you can also understand it from a user perspective. It's something so true to their mission and what their actions are matching their words, which is great. The other thing, I want to mention is that with regards to this, sorry, I totally lost my train of thought there.
Just cut that out in your video and go into the next segment, just like you.
Yeah, Tanner, is that
Yeah, it is. I just found out how to do it. I don't think Roy has it yet because it's impossible to miss. It's just like a big thing that says you have 10 free things to give away.
Dude, no, yeah, I don't see it at all. I even chatted YouTube support, and they're terrible, and it made me want to short Google.
Yeah, their YouTube support is genuinely useless. I don't even know why they're paying people to be support. They probably have not answered anyone's question once.
Fire them all and hire Chat GPT or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's bad. They literally told me this was not a feature and nobody had it. And I'm like, here is your guys' own post on X.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I see what you mean. Well, you don't have it. So that's what I'm saying.
I don't know.
Sorry, Tevis.
Oh, dude, I totally lost it. I had one more point that I wanted to say, and then I totally
Well, I'm sure it was your best point and great point.
This is me getting older for you in real time.
It's you drinking water instead of Celsius, but good for you.
I need more of that.
Yeah, I've been I bought some more Monsters today, but I'm drinking. I might drink a Monster a day. I have a big jug of water I go through a day, so that's been helping. More water, less caffeine. Caffeine's great though, man.
Oh, I do remember what I was going to say. I was going to say the other thing, it seems like what they're doing, just again, reading between the lines, is, other than that SMB portion of the business, which they were like referring out essentially, which I know a bunch of people in the community started, were skeptical around because they had wanted SoFi to build that in-house and just vertically integrate more. I haven't really seen any new, like, product line that they're talking about. And it seems as though for 2025, a lot of their focus efforts are just to go deeper into existing product lines. How can we make more money off of lending? How can we ramp up the loan platform business and increase our fee-based revenue sources in general? Anthony Noto talked a little bit about that in the fireside. How can we do this whole like interest-only personal loans, which is in that same segment? And so when you're thinking about, okay, does their product roadmap development go wide or deep? It seems as though they're still uncovering new ways to make more from a revenue per customer perspective and a monetization perspective in general from existing product lines before even introducing new product lines, at least at face value.
I gave away 5 gifted subs for free. Jared caught one of them and then gave me $20 to say thank you. That was not needed at all. That's anti what it was for. Thanks for the support. Yeah, I agree. I think that they're trying to go really deep on certain products, but I just wish that they would also roll out some features that potentially we wanted on the invest side.
You're like, yeah, great, capture more market share, make more money, but where's level 1 options?
Yeah, I mean, like, come on, you guys have multiple departments. It's not like, I don't know.
Yeah,
dude, Anthony Noto is right to shit on you guys. I mean, on us all, I guess, because I'm right there on the level 1 options bandwagon with you.
I mean, he mentioned it, but it's like maybe there's something I don't understand about like how almost impossibly difficult it is to launch level 1 options, but I don't think so.
I don't think it's a matter of difficulty. I think it's just a matter of priority.
At this point, I think that they're just being obdurate and they're like, we're just not going to do it.
What's the priority?
Well, he literally said SoFi Plus affects all members. And so we want to do that because there's higher ROI that they're seeing internally with SoFi Plus relative to level 1 options.
Okay. In that time, Robinhood launched their version of SoFi Plus and level 1 options and futures and index options. And like, I'm just sick of these excuses where they're like, oh, it's prioritization. It's like, yeah, Robinhood's also prioritizing stuff and just doing 10 other things.
What's the employee count?
Robinhood, I don't know what to tell you.
Half the employee count of SoFi.
Robinhood is?
Yes.
Damn, I don't know then. Yeah.
Half.
It's fine. Level 1 options, like as a product and as a source of revenue, are not like a huge deal. We just talk about it because it's like one of those like, but why have you not done it? Like, really, what is it? And it's one of those things that's difficult for me there's not many things that's difficult to hold SoFi, especially at this valuation. Like I said, if it wasn't for my own personal role, I likely would have bought more SoFi this week, and I definitely would be on Monday, even despite the price move. We're going good places, guys. But I don't have a good feel of that culture, the competency regarding tech, like a little bit more on the Galileo side and Technisys side. And I'm really glad that, Anthony Noto talked about the platform, the tech platform the way he did. But I don't know, man. I just don't think, like, if you were giving grades to like culture and tech efficiency and competency, SoFi would be a grade below Robinhood, maybe 2. I could be wrong, but man, it just, I don't know. And it's level 1 options, like not a huge deal. Who cares? But what is it going to take? Like 5, 6, 7 people a month, and then you're good. But it's fine. Like if that's not the priority, that's absolutely fine. He knows the business a lot better than we do. He's steered SoFi incredibly well. Like people can lose sight of that too and get really hyper focused on the tech platform. And remember where SoFi came from, that it was just a student loan, basically a student loan business in a time where student loan revenue completely went away. And the company not only survived, but grew and thrived into this company that is profitable. And a lot of people thought it would never be, and growing and releasing good products. It's a great company. He's a very good leader. I don't understand that piece still.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's very easy for us to sit here and say, oh, well, they have double the headcount. Why are they not rolling out double the products?
Or
Yeah.
just some products.
I know. And I'm not like, blindly defending SoFi. I hope they add more products too. And I agree they need to be a more product driven company. Like I'm a product person, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, I've personally seen companies who get bigger and literally are paralyzed into their releases. Like they cannot release anything to save their life because of so much tech debt on top of tech debt, on top of process debt, on top of so many different like new people that are joining, like the revolving door of people who don't have technical knowledge, no documentation. It's just a freaking mess. And so like it's really one of those things where good
Explain that a little bit. Can you do like 5 minutes on that?
Sure. On what part?
Like what really slows the process down where a company would have a harder time releasing products than more agile or smaller business?
So I think that if you're building a company from the ground up, you're trying to instill best practices from the ground up. Like what are the top principles that you can to make every single component of this business scalable so that you can handle the traffic, you can handle new product offerings. Think of it like you're building something, you want Lego blocks where you can very easily dismantle the Lego blocks and build something else if you wanted to. It's like a super oversimplification, but just for the sake of the conversation, right? Whereas with SoFi, and I'm not sure that this is the case, but really in software development, you have two major forms of architecture. You have like a monolithic structure and you have like a microservice approach. And the microservice approach is essentially, you have small services that talk to each other and they're like individual components. So they're more like the Lego block approach. But a monolithic structure is something where it's like a house of cards type of thing. You can't really change anything because everything is depending on the other thing. And usually that's the case with a lot of legacy platforms because you have these businesses that are not built for scale. You have these businesses that are not really built for the functions that they're doing today. And what you have is as you apply these forcing functions on these businesses, you have to re-architect them and build them from scratch because I mean, in product management, you have this thing called a skateboard MVP to say, very simply put, it's saying, okay, how can I build the thing that gets me from point A to point B in the lowest amount of effort possible? Because if a client says, hey, I want to get from point A to point B, they're usually also including the bells and the whistles. I want to do this, in a Lamborghini. I want to get there super fast. And the skateboard MVP concept is like, well, a skateboard will get you from point A to point B. It won't be a smooth ride. It'll be bumpy. It won't be safe. It won't be fast, but it'll get you there. And then we can build on that. But then if you're like building something and then modifying it for all of these different use cases after the fact without having planned for that scale, without having planned for that magnitude, without having planned for those use cases, then you're going to have a really tough time to try to MacGyver this thing backwards. And you're better off going back to the drawing board and building it for like the right way from the ground up. And so that's one thing. And then you exacerbate that problem when you have merging of two companies that have different processes, when you have two different teams that come from different cultures, when you have engineers who are day one engineers who leave and take all of their context that's like in their head essentially that has no documentation. And then you essentially have like new engineers that come onto the team that have to learn the code base by literally looking at the lines of code because there's no like tutorial or guide. So anyways, a lot of that is an oversimplification and a lot of that is like, way more convoluted than it should be, but that's essentially the concept, right? And so my point is there are things that go on behind the scenes that ordinary people don't see and don't account for when they say, why is this not done fast enough? But the fact of the matter is that I guarantee you that having seen how Robinhood behaves or how SoFi behaves, there's probably a 5-person team that can recreate 80% of that experience within a year from scratch, because you already see the end result and you're just building your way backwards. But to be a business that can actually see that roadmap ahead of them and try to build it over time, like that takes a lot of effort because you don't have a blueprint. Sorry.
I saw that comment and it killed me, dude. I think that's a really great explanation. But do you think that there's also some weird sort of transition over to Technisys that's still happening that should be wrapping up for the most part this year? And then, the speed to deliver may increase after that?
I think that Technisys is a fairly independent swim lane, that their team is building their product roadmap for their use cases. And SoFi is just one client essentially that has a heavy influence on the roadmap, but doesn't have the single voice to overwrite everything. At least that's how I hope it should be. Because when you have management from SoFi that doesn't understand the contextual complexities of Technisys dictate the roadmap for Technisys, then it's a shit show waiting to happen. But
I don't necessarily mean that, but see, these are the types of things where I just have zero background on. But how would it work working on products on essentially old infrastructure and then switching to a completely new tech stack? Wouldn't that require some level of new code or something like this if you're changing
so
what potentially you're writing your code on?
It depends on what your code base looks like. You're either going to have to try to integrate or you're going to have to rewrite from the beginning. And if you have this microservice approach where every one of your services is very isolated, like the Lego block approach, then yeah, integrating is pretty straightforward. It's plug and play to some degree with APIs. But if you have this thing where each service is depending on the other service to be alive, then it's a shit show because it's like a labyrinth that you have to navigate.
Yeah, but isn't that why it's taking years?
Yes.
Is because it's the latter?
Yes. I mean, that would be my guess. That's the trouble that I've run into with previous companies is they have this super legacy code base and they're trying to do AI now because the CEO is not a tech guy and he doesn't understand. He's add AI to this. I'm okay, great.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Palantir, not to diverge it, but is actually succeeding, is companies for a long time have done that, where they have the Frankenstein monster approach of just add this and just add that and just add. It's not all plug and play. There's a lot of work that goes on the back end. And then even if everything is working, when one thing is updating and it's it should not affect anything else, it does. Because you have spaghetti code. And the longer and older it is, imagine a cooked thing of spaghetti and all the noodles are intertwined and there's knots and then they're just congealed together. It would take a person a very long time to just dump that out. And sometimes it's worth doing that. And other times it's hey, we just need to start over from scratch. And that seems to be a lot of what SoFi has done on the Technisys and Galileo platform, is that they're moving things over to a very agile, modern system, modern core that not only benefits them, and Noto did a great job of highlighting that, but also others can build upon it. But it's a tough sell. Palantir for the longest time was a very tough sell for a lot of companies because they realized this wasn't we'll pay a little money for Palantir, get their product, plug and play. It's no, Palantir really wanted you to build your entire enterprise on their system. And it works great, but that's a colossal undertaking. And so you had a choice of either hiring their forward deployed engineers, which are not cheap, and usually there is a wait list. There's just more demand than they could keep up with. It's changed with AIP now. Or you try to do it in-house and you may not be competent enough with that technology. If you're a shoe company, your bread and butter is not designing this enterprise system as far as technology. You might have great people that work on products that you have, but that's not in your wheelhouse at all. So SoFi faces the exact same thing, where for the longest time, a lot of their clientele, less so I think with fintechs, but with the larger banks, have been getting by with just slapping on something else to the system. And eventually they'll get to the point where they're like, hey, there is no other choice here. Now, no, the one thing, well, maybe we'll talk about like the big stuff in a bit. There was one thing I noticed in the way that Noto worded something that I picked up on that was interesting, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I think that a lot of people watching, they have no technical background and they think, well, options is easy because look at the UI, but options is like 95% all backend infrastructure because you have your existing brokerage infrastructure that has to now support options. They have to support, option routing, option execution. They have to support any type of risk associated with options like margin risk. They have to make sure that they're good on a like regulatory compliance, regulatory requirement side of things. They have to handle like latency, execution speed. Like there's so much on the back end for options. Like it's pretty much all back end, back office operations, and they have to do like all the clearing as well, settlements. So it's like you put the option trade in, everything that happens from the time the trade gets executed and beyond, they have to figure out. It's not just the UI that they can just slap together. They got to make sure that this thing works correctly, can handle the volume, can handle all their customer base, can handle all their complaints or errors or the mechanics that go into it. And so I think that's the thing that I just want to highlight. Like it doesn't just happen because it all has to integrate with their existing ecosystem. And who knows how their brokerage infrastructure was initially architected, because if it can't handle like, limit orders, if it can't do like multi-leg trades, if it doesn't operate at a fast speed or it has high latency or it's not optimized for that type of order execution in general, then you're going to have a lot of problems with it. You have to like reverse engineer it to re-architect it to now handle level 1 options. And then people are like, well, it's just level 1 options. Robinhood can do it. It's like, yeah, Robinhood is operating probably on a much more modern infrastructure that they've like thought through because they started out as a brokerage.
And it's not just the technology itself, like it's the culture and the way that decisions are made. Older organizations, let's take PayPal, for instance, it's very siloed. They did not integrate these acquisitions well at all. There's been people that have been there forever. What the vision and the mission has changed so many times, and it's really tough because like if you're going to make a decision, and I don't know this for sure, but it's very hierarchical. So you're like somebody at the ground level may notice something that the top level is not even thinking about. And is there a way to communicate that directly and quickly? Probably not. There may not be. I expect there probably is now. Alex Chris seems like a guy that would put that into the organization. He certainly did it into it, but it's slow. Like the line of communication, it's really slow. Decisions are not made quickly. It's not an agile business at all, and people don't all have the same priority. It's very siloed, and versus like a startup company that's very young, like you can't operate that way. It's you might have a hierarchy, but it's not like there's not a huge gulf between the top and the bottom. And some of those most nimble companies, are those that have that flatter corporate structure. That's always the case. You can have a hierarchical company that works very, very well, but you actually have to know what you're doing, be able to communicate decisions down the line, be able to get feedback, because again, those frontline people will notice things that the top level people will never even think about, imagine, or consider. And that'll lead to some really bad decisions. And I don't know where SoFi is on the culture, but Robinhood, has, I don't get the sense of hierarchy at all. Like no silos, no hierarchy. And it's just kind of a unicorn. And there's other companies out there like that. I'm just throwing that up because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't wait to talk more about it in the after hours show, because Tevis is well learned on this company now. He's a shareholder, so
yeah, maybe we'll talk Hims and Hood, the H&H. Like that's been the trade.
H&H. Yeah, stock goes up almost like they're customers of Hims. All right.
Robinhood owns its own clearing firm, right?
Yeah.
And SoFi uses Apex?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go, guys. That's a big hint. Integrating that for level 1 options, like if Robinhood owns its own clearing firm, they can just bypass any third parties, whereas SoFi has to go through Apex and they have to coordinate with Apex. They have to optimize and build for Apex? And then what if they don't want to go through Apex in the future? Like, what if they want to vertically integrate that? Then that's a whole other thing. Because, like, what if SoFi management right now is saying, hey, we want to vertically integrate a clearinghouse to bring it all under one roof, but we don't want to build level 1 options right now through Apex because we know that this is the plan in the future. So we got to hold off on level 1 options until we can go, vertically integrate. I'm just presenting other use cases as to why Robinhood can move faster on, level 1 options specifically from an infrastructure perspective than SoFi can. Just saying.
Yeah. Anything else that we want to cover in today's show?
So I didn't capture the transcript, but I had to replay this a couple of times. I think this is the first way that he mentioned those mega banks that are in the pipeline. And instead of saying that we're still in the running for all these contracts or for these contracts, he said some of these. So that, I think, and I'd have to go back, and I don't have the time, guys,
Is this
previous earnings calls. But it sounds like that they were excluded from some of those potential deals. Or he may have just misspoke. Like, that happens.
earnings call or in the
Fireside?
And sorry, I'm on the transcript right now. Where can I find this?
Search for pipeline, probably.
Okay.
Or
anything
some.
else? Here, wait. We can try to do this together.
Yeah.
I'm just already here, so we could try to find something on this.
Some, SOME. Hopefully, there's not too many.
30 cases of some.
Deal or deals. There it is. Is that verbiage different, or am I just imagining things?
Um,
And again, this could be, because this happens to me all the time. I do a lot of speaking publicly, and I'll say something that I didn't mean to say that wasn't even true, and it slips out. So I'm not reading too much into this. I just thought that the wording was very interesting.
I'm not sure. Or they're closing out on some big deals. I mean, what's interesting is, like, even on the deals that we did close, they're going to see a financial increase by 2026. I know that they mentioned that in here as well. Oh, yeah, right here.
Yeah.
They'll contribute to growth in 2026 and beyond. Why not? Like, I don't know. It's just hard for me to understand how Galileo is even paid because we know so little about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting the sense that there is a long runway between meaningful revenue and a client onboarding. Because, I mean, they've had this Wyndham thing. I don't think came out of left field. Like, they had no idea about it during their earnings call, and when they were making guidance. I'm sure that they're like, hey, we just gotta finalize it. And they announced a number of other deals, and some were meaningful. One was top 10 as far as Galileo. But you look at the guidance and it's lackluster. And so I'm guessing that it's just a long runway to actual revenue when they onboard a client. I could be wrong, but it's opaque. But yeah, that wording though, what do you think, Tevis? Do you think it indicates, like, is that different in your mind than it was before? And do you think it indicates that they lost out on some?
No, I think, like, reading between the lines is what gets us in trouble in the first place, by concocting stories in our mind around, like, whoa, this, like, I think Occam's razor applies. Like, yes, the host made a mistake by saying 14 million. Yes, Anthony Noto chose poor phrasing by saying some. Like, the simplest solution is usually the right solution. And if we treat it that way, then we're just happily surprised when it's the other way around.
Can you go back to that document? B-Dub said, read the few sentences prior. And by the way, I didn't post on this at all or comment even outside of this, just because I was like, I don't know. It may not mean anything. I just thought it was interesting, and I figured I'd ask you guys. Companies weren't ready for the transition to the technology that happened at the exact same time. We moved our focus away from fintech companies because we didn't see them as durable customers with durable revenue. But we're in a great position to capture a big part of the large banks and financial institutions. That hasn't changed. So, yeah.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. It's easy to nitpick like an individual word, and you can't do that because
Sure.
people do misspeak and say things that they weren't
Yeah.
even thinking. So
We're lost in the weeds here.
It sounded like go ahead.
if if I go back and I see it in transcripts that it was saying not some, and now it's some, and then we see some going forward, it indicates that they're not being considered for some. That also doesn't mean that a competitor with SoFi got those deals or contracts, or it could just be as simple as a bank changing their C-suite and their board and just saying, hey, we're going to go a different direction. We're going to try to do this in-house. That happens all the freaking time with this kind of technology. That's actually the number one competitor to this type of product, is not the Marquettas or Fiserv or anything like that. I think SoFi is best in house for what they are offering with Galileo, but the competitor is actually the bank themselves, the customer themselves, and the engineering. Usually, engineers are like myself. I'm not an engineer, but I will dramatically underestimate the time it will take to do something and the resources, and I'm very poor at that. And so oftentimes when an upper level management gets an idea of like, hey, why don't we just build this ourselves? They'll go to engineers and like, oh yeah, we can do that, in like a year, no problem. It'll be this much. And then they hit a year and it's like, man, sunk cost. It's a fallacy, but it's a real thing. And so they just keep going with it. And so it could be something as simple as that. Like it doesn't mean that SoFi's products aren't credible or anything. It was interesting.
What do you think about this write-up really quick? The BTIG wrote about this Wyndham Capital card deal, and they think that this is a huge deal. SoFi's entrance into the co-brand space is very interesting development, and winning one of the largest global hotel brand chains hints at what could potentially be a very large market share for SoFi's growth, or a very large market for SoFi's growth. The debit card angle is also unique in our view, with most other competitors offering rewards and loyalties funded by credit card interchange fees. They actually think that this is a negative for American Express, Affirm, Bread Financial, and Synchrony Bank. While we don't think that SoFi's entrance will have a material near-term impact on these competitors, it does add a potential sizable player into a market that is already biased towards merchant pricing power. What do you guys think about how serious they're taking this deal?
I mean, it's interesting, and presumably, because I know like very little about how these kinds of deals work, they know more than I do. So yeah, it could be bigger than I expect.
I thought that was an interesting write-up.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, like the who they think that it impacts. Like Affirm is one of those that we don't talk about much, but they are a competitor. It's really funny. Like it seems like the SoFi community has focused on, for some reason, Palantir and Robinhood as like the antagonists and the opposition. Not really Palantir, but the stock, and then Robinhood. There is a lot of overlap with Robinhood, increasingly so because of the product launch and speed of Robinhood. But Affirm, there's a good bit there too. So, and we never talk about Affirm.
You know what's funny is that it's about the companies that YouTubers talk about, not about the companies that are actually doing good. So the whole time you could have said, oh my gosh, how is Dave catching up in stock price, or Sezzle, or any of these ones that have just gone absolutely ballistic in short periods of time, but no one was covering them, so no one cares.
Yeah, Sezzle would have been another good one too. Wish I could short that one.
Now, Roy.
Yeah.
Lots of companies are coming out, lots of regulators are coming out and talking about crypto services. Does this change your timeline potentially, that government might be working faster than you may have originally thought?
No. No, I still think that you're wrong. I think it's going to be late this year, early next year. Well, you didn't say like within the month. You said first quarter, right? Or did you say a month?
No, first quarter.
First quarter, yeah. I don't think that there's any way it happens the first quarter. And we've seen not with this as much, but with other initiatives from the Trump administration, a lot of pushback, a lot of red tape, a lot of legal shenanigans, a lot of kind of sketchy things too. Um, the government is like we talked about, like spaghetti code and dysfunctional code. The government is that to a T. So yeah. By the way, running an ad. So thank you guys. When we had a 1 hour mark, that's what I do. Tevis, do your thing, man.
I already did it like 20 seconds ago. So great
Good
minds.
for you, man. Got to get that $1.50. But no, I still think that it'll take them just a while to sort out that mess. And I've not seen the regulatory clearance from a few certain agencies that need to do that. I think, so like the moment you'll know when the time is right. Like I really think that Noto and his team are getting ready to launch this. And the moment that they know that it's a go ahead to launch, like you're going to see that. I don't think it's going to be months. I don't think it's going to be quarters after. I think it'll be, a week or maybe just a couple of weeks. Might even be days, might even be hours, although they're going to probably want to double check because they're a bank. Not a bank. They have a bank and they need to be careful. But no, like it's coming. It's inevitable. And it's nice to have big money in this. Like a lot of other banks are very, very interested in this space. And that just adds a little bit of pressure to actually get this done faster. So, but yeah, I still say Q4, maybe Q1 next year.
Want to wrap?
Let's wrap.
Ladies and gentlemen,
more of a singer than rapper, but
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. Really do appreciate your time. Bye-bye for now.